A huge shout out to AC Infinity. They recently released their humidifier. This is an easy top fill system that allows you to adjust the moisture levels from the outside of your tent. It connects to the controller 69, which makes things so much easier to use. You can follow it on your app, you can see it from outside the tent without ever having to step inside. If you head over to acinfinity.com, use promo code THESTASH15, you can save a few dollars off not only the humidifier, but all of their products. And while you're at it, thank them for being a sponsor of today's video. But man, I'm having some plant problems.
Oof.
I don't know.
You and me
Yeah.
both.
What a plant killer.
It's going to turn into a plant problems episode.
Well, let me lay it down for you. But real quick, I see row 1. It says, "Is this live?"
It's not.
No. But that was good. That was good. Almost like we're in each other's heads.
Yeah, that was perfect. That was perfect.
What were we talking about? Oh yeah, plant problems. Yeah. So I've been everywhere but the garden over the course of the last week and a half, and before that, I wasn't really even full head in the garden. So to come across some troubled times, especially without proper preparation, has really left me at a disadvantage. I got Dead Ops OG. Shout out to Zaza Genetics. In fairness, these girls have done wonderful. They've tried to give me every bit of vigor and growth, but I've stifled them at really every opportunity. And so they've really got some really heavy leaves, purple stems, which isn't totally unusual, but they're fading quickly, which leads me to believe that there is something going on in the pot because they're getting fed regularly. So for them to have a deficiency look means that something's going on somewhere, and I haven't troubleshooted it yet. So here I am, 2 massive plants. I was prepared to flip two weeks ago, and I haven't done it yet. And I'm, kind of just at a bit of a standstill, if you will. So, yeah, plant problems. I think they can happen to the best of us, and I think you got to kind of ask yourself, are you willing to strap on the boots and get yourself through this? Or do you need to make the unfortunate decision of, do I just cut her down, maybe preserve a smaller portion of her as a mother, or get rid of it altogether? What are you looking at, Chris?
But I got to plant that. I'm not going to throw my mom under the bus, but I'm going to. Actually, as I say it, she wanted to take over a plant, and she took the most finicky one, and I said, Mama, don't take the finicky one. But she did, and it was a big plant already, and she didn't realize how hungry it was. The person I got it from was doing a lot of crop steering, so he was really heavy feeding. And when he switched over to his routine, it was nothing like how we both used to grow. So when I brought it into my space, it needed so much more food, and she grew it out, and it's unbelievably hungry, constantly stressed, and those areas that are yellowing and deteriorated just aren't going to bounce back. So I've let it grow massively just to get it healthy enough so I could take more cuts of it. So now it's this huge freak that I hate, and I'm just going to take cuts and kill it, unfortunately. But I've got a comparable sitch, man. It sucks.
Ouch. Well, problems I'm coming across, actually. So I mentioned I was in Denver, right? So I actually left my plants for 3 days. So not too long, I've left them for longer before. Now, I didn't set up an auto watering system. I have yet to set up the dripper system. I didn't want to set up the auto watering system and like a couple days later go away and then something go wrong. So obviously I gave them enough water that was needed to last those 3 days. I'm in larger containers, 10-gallon containers. I actually have one that's in a 5-gallon container, so I gave it a little bit more, but water wasn't the issue. I get back to, I open up the grow tent after coming back and find out that everything is looking fantastic. First off, everything's just lush green all across. Every single plant is praying up to the light. I'm like, this is freaking awesome. I just went away and came back, and they're just as happy, if not happier, than when I went. Upon closer inspection, right? You always want to inspect your plants. And, 4 looked great. The first 4 looked fantastic. 5th one, looking really close. Looking at the nodes, see a pollen sac. Unfortunately, one of them ended up being a herm. So it's sacks at the nodes. We're not talking about nanners. We, you know what I mean? So typically with the sac-sided nodes, it's genetics. But if it's like nanners, it's more so like stress induced. And big shout out to Zaza Genetics, actually. When I spotted this one, it came from a feminized seed. And you often hear about, are feminized seeds more likely to herm out? Right? You hear people say both ways, right? So people are like, oh yeah, absolutely, much more likely to herm out than regular seeds. I forget to ask a real breeder because I don't really know. I wanted to ask him. I
How
asked
dare you.
Zaza, and I've got his DMs here pulled up, private message. And I asked him, do feminized seeds really have a higher chance of going herm? He says, only if the parents are the results of many generations of outcrosses, that can be the case. But when working with stable parents, that's not the case. So we kind of go back and forth a little bit. He asks a little bit more questions, and I send him over the picture showing him the nodes with the pollen sacs coming out. So he says this is a natural herm and genetically coded as to where the stamen or nanners are stress induced, right? So just what I mentioned, if you're getting the nanners coming out, it's more stress induced. Either way, it's a responsibility of the breeder to isolate the trait and remove it from showing the dominant in the line. So unstable genetics, that's on the breeder's failure to stress test. So unfortunately, he's pointing fingers at the breeder. It's a good, it's a good
As a
thing that's
breeder,
not
though,
me,
that's
the grower, right? I'm not the one causing the stress in a bad environment and causing it to herm. But unfortunately, I did receive genetics that showed the herm trait. So yeah, that sucks. And I'm sure people want to know which one. What are the genetics? It's Sweet Cider by Grow More Fire. So I'm gonna have to hit him up. We talked to him. He actually, we all met him in Vegas when we were out
Good guy.
when he was when you guys were out here last, and seems like a good dude. But I don't know. Maybe this is
Experience is
just a
everything.
one-off or something. Maybe I just
Well-
got unlucky with it or what. But yeah, unfortunately, I'm gonna have to kill out this beautiful plant. Beautiful plant.
They're always the beautiful ones.
Yeah.
best one.
The reality is I think accountability is important. I don't think that it's necessarily something that you need to like cast shade or think negatively of. I think it's something where it's like, okay, now it's like back to the drawing board. I think as a breeder, and I say this not as a breeder, but I think as a breeder, you should be willing to take this criticism. I think that means that, okay, well, I had a plan. It didn't quite fall through. I need to dial back, and I need to fix this up. Now, I know you didn't pay for these genetics. I don't know if there are people that are paying for these genetics. So I'd almost see it as like an opportunity to make right by. So it'd be like, okay, well, here, let's see if this works. Give me, an opportunity here. Try this. If this was something that somebody was paying for, I think that I would expect either A, a refund, or B, something in its wake. I would want this made right some way. Am I making
Back
sense?
massage or something after that big ass.
Yeah, you got to do me right. You got to do me right.
Yeah. I totally
So-
hear you on that one. I actually know him. Like I mentioned, we met him personally, so I'm going to hit him up and let him know and inform him. Maybe he's not aware, or maybe he is. Maybe he already pulled the line. Maybe he already took him out, found out this is happening, and took it off. Or maybe
Easily
it's just a
could've.
one-off case. So either way, I'm going to notify him and let him know that information.
Yeah.
He's a good guy. I mean, fun fact, he has the same boots as Pete and wears them the same way. So once he walked in, he's a part of the crew. I'm like, okay, dog. Like they did the little kid and play kick, and we moved forward. It was great.
Yo,
Man.
what's up, bro? We just went.
We talking about boom.
Yo, what's up, G?
I love
That
it.
was so
It's good,
funny.
man. It's good.
Same
We're on
fucking
everywhere, always, all the time, even
Right?
on a rented couch.
So, every week.
When I think it's with the Hermian situation, like there's no ifs, ands, or buts. You're killing it. You know what I'm saying? That's for sure there. A stressed out plant, I've noticed that, like, yeah, aesthetically, it's ugly. So people they want to get rid of it. But at the same time, I've put plants in that were uglier and that weren't in as good a condition, and they didn't yield great at all. And I would have been better off to just restart. In the time it takes to bounce back, I could have cloned and made 3 more plants in the place of that one. So I'm a big proponent of just calling the herd. If it's too far gone, depending on a percentage of like wilting or decay, I'm just going to get rid of it. Take the
Yeah,
clones, move forward.
Yeah, this particular plant, unfortunately, we're on week 2 of flowering. 3, coming up on 3, if not at 3. I don't have my notes in front of me, but like beginning of flowering. If this is happening, I have to kill it off, right?
Oh,
There's
yeah.
no like,
it'll be riddled with seeds by then.
there's no snipping off pollen sacs. You could burst open a pollen sac, all of a sudden it's fine. It's going in and pollinating all the plants. Sniffing off branches that have the pollen sacs and hope that the branches that don't have the pollen sacs yet don't form. You know what I mean? It's wipe the whole plant. Unfortunately, just take the L on it, take the loss on it. So, yeah, I guess it on the positive side, it makes a little bit more space in my grow tent because it was getting a little overcrowded there. So, at least I free up a little bit of space, get a little more working room in there.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I feel like that's the benefit sometimes too. I've been growing a lot less plants in the past couple of years, we'll say, but especially in the past 2 runs. I was usually doing 36 to 72 plants total, as a caregiver. And then now again with the market what it is and a lot of the people not renewing their medical cards, I just haven't grown as much. And then I haven't had the need to grow as much. So it's like when I have one that is messed up, which it doesn't happen often, but if it does, like it's kind of a big deal now because I have less plants. When I had a bunch, it was like, nah, whatever, move forward. But when I've got 5 total for that run, I'm like, it's 1/5 of my garden is missing now. So it's super crucial to not have any situations. If it's controllable based on the environment, that's different. If it's a situation that's genetics, that sucks. What can you do?
Yeah, and I planted those feminized seeds thinking like, okay, this is like my guaranteed females. I know that as long as these sprout and they're good, you know what I mean, growth wise, that they're going to be females. I'm going to get a yield out of it, right? And then this goes and happens. It's like, oh wait, yeah, I forgot
So
about this
trained
possible
it.
scenario.
You treated that like a straight up going into flower plant then. So I could see this being a beautiful, perfect Mr. Grow It plant. You know what I'm saying? That sucks. I didn't even think about that fact.
But yeah, I'll have to post some pictures on Twitter or something like that, Instagram, so you guys can see what I unfortunately have to kill off. It's gorgeous plant, but have to kill it.
I often find that the ones that present the most, well, not the most problems, but the ones that the problem of being a male tend to be the prettiest, the bushiest, the greenest, the most lavish. It's something about male traits, or it's something about karma. I don't know. I really don't know. It's just, it seems like when you pull a male plant, it's always the best looking one in the group. It's like, why? And as someone who doesn't breed, I don't know the answer to that. Maybe just males are easier to grow. Maybe they're not as picky. Maybe they're better looking plants. I don't know.
Well, it's like I feel like the energy doesn't have to go into producing babies, so to speak. It can just grow and be a big strength focused plant versus it has to have flowers and
My
this is
mind
all
just
bro
goes so,
science.
Big alpha male.
It's
just a
bunch of
big
bro down
dick.
dude just broing out. You know what I'm saying?
Grown in
EDE.
alpha, not a beta.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's
I
like
guess.
I feel like that's the beauty of being a breeder though, because you could find the growth characteristics that you like on both and have them, but then also like that stem rub. We've talked about that before with different breeders on the show, like things they look for with a male. And oftentimes you'll see growth as the number one, but then you'll see things like the stem rub or looking at the even the leaf size and the structure of the plant in terms of what you'd see for flower, even though you're never going to see flowering from a male plant. So it's a nice indicator, I think, maybe of like the lineage and how the plant's going to grow. But a male plant just sucks. When I see it in my garden, I'm pissed. No sausage fest.
No, yeah, I
And then
get
you're
it.
breeding, so like that would be awful if you have a Hermie or a random male pop up.
Yeah, it would be unfortunate, and it typically is unfortunate. I see Green Goblin 510, the homie over there, in the chat. And if you're watching on YouTube, you didn't know we actually stream typically once a week, every Thursdays at 1 p.m. Central, 2 Eastern, and 11 Pacific. You can come check us, twitch.tv/FromTheStash. Come join the conversation every week. Green Goblin says, actually, it's because they, or not actually, he says, because they got to grow taller than females to spread the pollen further. So so the males generally grow taller, bigger. So that seems consistent.
I trust Goblin. He reads a lot, man.
Yeah, he's the guy that he's one of the comments I read all the time without giving him credit to make me sound smarter.
Him and
Goblin's
Chris,
the man,
they
dude.
write a lot of the scripts for our life. So
I remember we had
Yeah.
him on from the stash. Oh, jeez, that
Yeah.
was like 2 years ago now or something. We got to
We're gonna
get
talk
Goblin
about that.
back on. I
Episode
mean,
11.
was it 11?
Yeah.
Pigeons has no idea, no idea. But yeah, we got a Green Goblin. We got to get you back on, man. That'd be cool to link up and get caught up with everything you've been doing.
Absolutely, man.
Yeah.
So-
Yeah, that is a good idea. Man, like I could answer a few questions when it comes to
He knows some
plant problems.
things. He knows some things. I've known him since middle school. How crazy is that? Like, it just blows my mind every time I see him. Like, we've known each other for so long, dude. Like, it's crazy. I don't
Years
like kick
and
it with
years.
anybody that I know from like my past like that. He's the only person, and I never have time to hang out. So we kick it via spirit.
Spirit animals.
So we were talking a little bit before this about pretty experience I had recently doing a little R&D. I don't even call it R&D. Somehow the product made it to the market, but we got some infused pre-rolls from work, me and traded, and we brought it back to the studio. Figured, kick on the stream. Let's just try it out. And it was the most harsh, nasty, horrible, awful thing ever. But we got so baked. Like, I watched the video back, kind of just see things that I said to tell the crew. And I was like, yeah, it definitely works in terms of getting you lit. It's like moonshine, man. Like, you could see partway through, and it was like wet from all the resin. Like, it was 0.8 grams of rosin, and it was like 20 different kinds of rosin with some unicorn breath flower from Frankel Fields. It was just... How common are these infused joints? Are everywhere here in Michigan, whether it be street or the market, wherever. How common are these infused joints for you guys? You see them often?
No, I mean, I'm not in dispensaries enough to really talk about. I mean, you see them, but as far as locally, can't really speak on that one.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
we
out
see
there in
him
these
everybody.
streets.
My buddy owns a dispensary. Yeah, and when he comes over, there's always infused joints. Always. We actually had a conversation on Highly Motivated in regards to like whether or not this was going to be the future. And in a way, I kind of thought it probably will be, because people are going to quit smoking flower, right? You got to think eventually, and they'll probably have a form of infused something, Yeah. I see it taking over, to be honest with you.
I think if they do it right, if hash rosin is the focus, Dirty over here on Twitch agrees. Said it was like same time. You got to owe me a soda now for that. But if it's hash rosin, it's good. This hash rosin wasn't good. Not all hash rosin is the same, but if it's done properly, I like it. The whole sauce and diamonds and all these things and oil, it's just a bunch of nasty with some mid-grade flour just to make the percentage higher. And then they'll spray it with terpenes. So you'll essentially have mid-grade flour, mid-grade oil, decent terpenes all mixed together. And the end product, you're like, well, it's decent. It's not too bad. But there's brands that go even further, like Steezy and Jeter, and that's their whole thing. And that's what they do. And we smoked another one out there in LA. Remember that little tiny little purple one we smoked, P? I think we all smoked it. That was who the gave us that? Photographer.
Oh yeah. Puffs.
Muffin.
Yeah, Muffin Be Puffin.
Yep.
And it was it was tasty, but it was not real. Like, it tasted like those grape and bubbles, the edible
I'm trying to
bubbles. You
remember
ever
the
had
name
those?
of it. She had names for them.
It was something kind of fancy, and people liked it. I can't get with that, man. Like, it's like smoking perfume. Like, whoa. Can't
was
do it,
photo
man.
op.
Can't do it. Like, that's what's hot right now. Everybody's doing that constantly. I mean, they're just taking and instead of doing like what I prefer again is bubble hash in it or rosin, bubble hash especially. But that would be ideal, or even supercharging a J or a blunt with keef. But now it's this distillate and diamonds and all this so harsh. I just can't consume it, man. I just gag. You're lucky, Chris, that you never.
Well,
have to
actually,
do
I
it.
do have a quick story for you, talking about something that may look good but not be good. Buddy of mine, old roommate, actually, he's a DJ, and he was on a party boat, and this party boat gets rented, so there's different people on there at all times. And apparently, there was these millionaires on this boat at the time, and one of them owned I don't know if it was a dispensary or what, but or a cultivation facility or something, but he gifted him this joint. Looked like absolutely beautiful. It was pretty big joint, rolled in keef, and it was like I don't know. I don't remember exactly what was in it. If there was like oil in there or what. I believe there was something in the center. Anyways, looked amazing. We fired it up, we smoked it, and felt nothing. Like there was just nothing there at all. And we were like just baffled. It's like, how the hell did this even make it to the market? You know, somebody thinks that this is good. What? Garbage. So like, yeah, man, I've come across that where you're so excited for something and then just are extremely disappointed because it's garbage.
Dude, that was our trip to Planet 13 when like it was great bud tender, but all the product was so bad that we gave it to the homeless.
No, that was our bartender. Sorry,
Steve was the
bartender.
Yeah, we'll never forget Steve.
But no, you're right, we won't. But the
it was
bud tender,
so bad
I forgot the bud tender because the bud was so bad. Like it was so bad. We went there just because, like, you know, we knew going there. We were like, man, all this that we have is way better. But let's just see what the hype's about. And man, it was like, yeah, the Mega Mall of both. Like, it's a cool experience in terms of the layout and everything.
well, we didn't try everything.
No, that is true. But we did try the hottest, supposedly.
Yeah.
Like,
top shelf.
top shelf.
top
very.
shelf. It's been $120 on a freaking
price
7
to be good.
Gs.
Yeah. Price to be great.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're paying for the experience there. Clearly, because
my experience wasn't great. That little
I just
the
think
van was cool.
That's what I'm saying. The van was cool. When you walk in, it's just like you walk into like this mecca of like bud. It's
Mecca
just like
of mids.
Mecca of mids. You can't tell. You didn't try it all. There was a good in there somewhere. I'm sure there was. There had to have been. Yeah, it was like a mall. It was just huge. It was just big, and there's so many people in there. And then we pretend to get high in a bus.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was awkward.
That was
like,
awkward.
Turn the
It's
smoke
definitely
on.
awkward to say. Yeah.
Take pictures. Take pictures.
That was funny. Yeah,
But
but
the worst is like it's shaping up, man. Here in Michigan, I can definitely vouch for a lot of the products are getting better, and there's been a lot of things where it's like we're seeing almost there was a black market infiltration, and not the good. The black market. I'm not going to call legacy market or us the free market. Like the dirty, scroungy cash cropper ones made their way into the industry, and companies like Fuego here in Michigan got in trouble, had a lot of their products pulled from the shelf, and there's other ones around the country it's happening to as well. But I think that's where a lot of this mid was coming from. There's so many cash croppers, like old millionaire giant.
Is the dispensary called Fuego?
No, the brand is Fuego.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's like there's a lot of people who are doing this where they'll push this mids out there, but now that the price has gotten so fair, there's more hardcore consumers who are going to these places. Like my uncle and my mom never hit me up. Yeah, that's the brand.
I'm just hooked on that. Sorry.
They're not great. It's mid.
Okay.
But we've got a lot of situations where I think it's weeding itself out, no pun intended. And now we're seeing more and more quality brands starting to come to the top, but it's because the industry is realizing the ones who are just there for cash are getting out more and more. Like, yeah, the money's not here anymore. The ones who are passionate are like,
this is what we learned in the 10th grade. You can't make money selling. Let's face it. You know, like, come on, man. You can smoke for free, but unless you really unless you're really, really, really in it, you know what I mean? There's just, it's obvious the suits are backing out. And the craft is taking over, the people that are in it. And of course there is money in making and growing, you know, but I mean, like, you have to be the one doing everything. Yeah, you're right. You need to cut out all the middlemen, all the middle persons. That sounds funny to say. But anyways, you have to cut out all the people with their hands in the pot. That means you're the one that has to be growing it. You've got to be the one breeding it. You got to be the one harvesting it. You've got to be the one packaging it. You've got to be the one distributing it. Then, you know, there's some real money to be made there. But you know, but that means one thing: you got to understand what's going on. You have to have your hands in the system. You got to know how long it takes to grow. You got to know how to put a man and a woman or a male and a female together and get from, you know, pollen from pollen to seed, you know, and you got to also understand that this is a process that can take months and months and months, if not years. So I think that's often overlooked.
And that's usually the issue too, is like, obviously I
By
can't leak
suits.
everything with my company, but like the accounting department, for example, the ones who just read black and white, they do not understand about anything when it comes to the plant. You know what I'm saying? And these are people that are, crucial for a business. So you have to have them there. So it's about somehow explaining to these people how this works and educating everybody on the team, or they shouldn't be involved. And again, the beauty of it is so many consumers now are purchasing, even though we're all home growers, but still are running to the dispo and grabbing, some rosin or live resin or some other thing like that. And now they're like, this sucks. And then they don't go back. And these companies are like, whether it's ethical or not, they have to change. They're like, man, people don't like our product. The only ones who were buying it before were the curious and the Karens and the ones who didn't really care. Now the ones who are passionate are coming in like, this is boof. I'm just going to grow back my own stuff. Like, I'm not doing this again. So it's really getting to the point now of that even market. And I'm happy to see people like, my uncle or my grandma, or people who don't grow are able to go to a dispensary and get good quality products now. But it's still like, you got to hunt for it, man. But I will say, like, here in Michigan, we had a lot of good growers in the past, but there still was tons of cash croppers who just grew mids who didn't smoke. It'd be all pretty and everyone nostalgia thinking is like, man, it was so much better then. It's like, was it? Because that shit was all mid and we were paying $200 a Z. Okay. So it's a little different now. Like, now it's mid, but it's less than that. So that's the only positive side. But it's just crazy that I feel like the market's shifting towards the consumer more, but I'm worried that those cash croppers now are getting into these infusion roles, and that's their next grasp at straws. Like, fuck it, buy all the bulk biomass mids, get some distillate, spray it on there with some terpenes, roll it in something, get good branding, spend $1 million on marketing, boom, we got a hit. We can go state to state. We can do cool dancing stuff and footballs that open up and have a bunch of pre-rolls in it, like
Go on.
other brands. He's like, go on, what do we ever do here?
I mean, that kind of makes sense that something else like that would be the next big hit, right? It isn't like, correct me if I'm wrong here, Robbie, you probably know more than me since you work in the industry,
I do know more than you.
but isn't flour like one of the least sold comparing to like concentrates and comparing to edibles?
Crazy enough, flour's number one
Flour's number one for you guys,
by
huh?
leaps and bounds. But in Michigan, it's like 52 or more percent. Yeah. But again, it's depending on where you're at. Like in California, it's probably a little different. You're going to have people who are going to just get ready to consume products and vapes and things like that. But in Michigan, it's predominantly flour and then pre-rolls. And then from pre-rolls, it goes down to like carts and then to edibles. Concentrates are one of the lowest. And then infused joints are going up. It's like joints are here, infused joints are right here, but they're slowly going past it because the regular joints are going as low as $3 to $7 a piece. Before they were 10 to 15. So they're like, no money in that. So now they're like, what we can do is we can take this mid, we can spray this mid, and we can sell it for 15 again. Boom. And now they're taking the same product they had and increasing the cost for them by 30 cents. They have pages. And then now all of a sudden they brought their margins back. And it happens all the time. People are just buying biomass. I have so many random companies hit me up. Hey, you guys looking to sell any of your product? We're like, no. Because they'll just go take it, make it mids, and then flip it for too much money. And it's disgusting to see, man. I hate it. Like, I'm in here not making friends in the industry. I'm the community guy, and people don't love me for it. But it is what it is, man. It's for the greater good. And people thank me eventually.
They're doing it with water. You could have this water, or if I put a little grape in it, we'll charge you twice the amount, and we'll call it sparkling water. Okay.
Well, I'll just fix the pH real quick.
Yeah.
And now it's great for you, your body.
Let me filter everything out of it, and then put it all back in and charge you more. It sound familiar? Huh? Sound familiar? Yeah. I personally love the concentrates myself. I love diamonds. Personally, diamonds in like terp sauce, where it's like you've just got the purity of the THC and you've got yet the enjoyment of the terps. This is where I love my flower too, man. I'm a home grower. I find solace in this plant, but I do enjoy, and there's nothing that can replace flower. I'll get that out right away. But I do enjoy a good smack in the face of a good fat dab with a little bit of terps, like a little bit of sauce in there, and you do that just right. Those are great for different occasions. But it's like flour. I always see 'em as like it's like the Swiss Army knife, of options, and you can like if you start with flour, you could swing out. You've got dabs, you could swing it out. You've got some rosin, you swing it out. You've got keef, you swing it out. You could just roll a joint, you swing it out. You got edibles, you know what I mean? So it's like once it's a concentrate, you're done. You chose your path, very narrow, chose your path, you're done. So I do think that, like, that's why I think flour can't be replaced. It'll always be there, but I do think that is more. I will never get over the term curious. That is the worst thing I've ever heard in my life.
It's in the pitch deck of the company
I believe it.
that I'm working for.
That's cannabis. I am sure that is a thing. I get it. But that's so weird. But anyways, it's like I'm sure as people become a little bit more involved in our community and our industry, they're probably going to be aimed towards something that's going to be a little more convenient, something that's a little more consumable, something that's a little more flavorful, something that's a little more healthier. Flour doesn't always give you those options, So
Yeah, and maybe it's because of the area I'm in. Sales will be different because what I've heard is that a quarter of the sales are flour, and the remaining are split between vapes, oils or concentrates, and then edibles. And maybe it's because, for those that don't know, I live in Las Vegas right now, and it's not legal to consume, to smoke on like the Las Vegas Strip or really anywhere on the streets. So maybe people are just naturally going to edibles and vapes and so on and so forth because it's easier to smoke and conceal on the streets here. I don't know. Just guessing.
Yeah, so here in Michigan, it's insane. In April, we had 2,412 pounds of flour sold, and then 11,000. They weigh it weird. 11,000 pounds of infused edibles sold for 420. But then, like the milligram wise, is still going to show flour being more of what was shipped, but secondary would be edibles. But it depends also. Like every month or every area, every region is going to be different. Predominantly in Michigan, it's flour because Michigan's like a little more old school, I'd feel. As we're like, California, Nevada, you're probably going to see a lot more consumers who are getting either vapes or concentrates or carts of some kind as a vape. I don't know. Edibles maybe, but it just seems like a lot more people are getting secondary stuff than flour. But it's people who want to consume quick. But when the price point's $10 a piece for basic stuff, like it's insane. Like it's got to be if for an everyday consumer. I'm starting to look at my Rellos. I'm like, oh, man, that was 50 cents. Not cheap. You know what I'm saying? Like every time, it's expensive. So that's
rolling
your consume and grow your own always.
Yeah, like even just like rolling, like using a glass piece. I was going to show one, but heaven forbid. Or rolling. Those days are dying, in my opinion. I really think that less and less, like, glass is expensive. It's not affordable by really any stretch of the imagination. And rolling a blunt is difficult. It's tedious. It's a pain in the butt.
It's expensive.
And it's expensive. So it's like, I just don't. I think it's for the hardcores. It's like when I think of tobacco, for example. When I think of people that roll their own tobacco, only really, really old folks do I know that ever used to roll tobacco in like a zigzag, but old folks would like roll filter like carts and stuff. And I'm not saying that there aren't a young generation that's doing it, but it's not. People are just going to the store and buying a pack of cigarettes, if you will, rather than
cigarettes nowadays.
It's going on style.
Cartridge kids.
So I'm just, I with the availability of carts, it's so easy. It's not the dose or the high I'm looking for. But if you've never had a huge bong rip, you're never gonna know, and your carts are probably gonna do you just fine. To those new
live
people.
hash rosin cart, those pull too. Like if it's done right, I mean, definitely. The disty carts, no, not so much. But then like Trey and I have been getting down with these Brothers Broadleafs. super expensive out from Cali. Got to order them like $25
I remember
for
those.
a pack of 5. You know what I'm saying? Shout out Adam Mill, put us onto these. They're make woods taste like trash. I mean, woods taste like trash anyways to me, but these are solid. But they're so expensive. 5 of them in here. I smoke these like during Hanukkah, and like, I mean, it's rare. I don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, they're expensive. So it's the glass is always the most affordable way to do it. It's different. I guess when you're a home grower, we're spoiled. And it's just crazy how much we're becoming a novelty and like a subculture, which we already were, but more and more and more, where we've got less people to communicate with. The community is, I wouldn't say shrinking, but it's tightening up, which is good for us who want to communicate and navigate through this together. But it was cool to see the explosion of growth everywhere. And it seems like less and less people are growing because these dispensaries are just like, we got to compete with the home grower. And it's like, you son of a, stop dropping your price so low. That's when they start competing, is when they just make it so it's so low you can't even compete. Like, it's like, man, you're talking $60 Z's? Like, I'm all set. No, thank you.
That's ridiculous. You know, one category we haven't talked about, which hey, some people may not be surprised that this category hasn't taken off over the years, which is beverages, right? Infused beverages.
Huh.
Now, I know when things were first legalized, you thought that was going to be a major category, one of the ones with the top sales. But I know locally here, barely anybody buys them, and I feel like that one of the main reasons might be due to availability. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's not like it's available at your local 7-Eleven. If we had infused beverages at like every 7-Eleven, for example, with alcohol, sales probably would take off. But yeah, I don't see many people going to the dispensary and buying the infused beverages.
Well, dude, we got Sweet Justice here, is what we're making over at Franklin Fields here in Michigan. And it was so hard to do because we don't have an FDA because it's not federally legal. So in Canada, it's different. So the processing, you know, there's I think 300 SKUs of drinks out there, and a lot of them are crushing it. As we're here in America, each state has their own regulation, their own agencies, their own bodies, governing bodies. And when it comes to drinks and like beverages in general, it's different than even regular edibles and gummies. And it's so hard for testing and regulation. They don't even know how to go about it. I mean, it took us over a year just to get to market when it was already a fully done product in Canada, and it's one of the top SKUs out there. But we find like last month, we just launched it. It took that long, but it's all about the excruciating processes that go through to get these drinks. And they're great, man, especially when they're nano infused. Like, these are, in Canada, there's restrictions on like how high of percentages. In Michigan, there was for a while, but now they've moved it up to 200 milligrams per drink, which is pretty heavy, especially nano infused. But we got 10 milligrams for ours, but I have to drink like 4 or 5 of them. You know, heavy consumers, we got to drink more, but a drink is never the main thing for me. You got to be smoking and having that. So, and it hits you real well that way. But for hardcore consumers, the drinks just don't do it quite as much. You know what I'm saying?
I didn't know there was that many hoops you had to jump over,
Dude, it's
to get
crazy.
a drink to the market like that.
Yeah, it's funny enough. Next week, Thursday, I'm not going to be around next week, Thursday. I forgot about that. I got shit I got to do. They're going to be in town from Canada. The company from Sweet Justice, they want to come and talk to me and Trey and be on from the stash on CLtv and talk about their product, and like how to launch it was ridiculous. Like, absolutely ridiculous. Actually, I could probably still do it if we do it at this time. So if we do the same thing next week, then I could do it.
Heard it here first, folks. You heard it here first from the stash an hour earlier, same time as today.
Tough, dude. I would never do like, if I was getting into this on my own, I would never, ever, ever launch a drink. Just how tough it is to get that in processing, even like for stability, to see your shelf life. You know what I'm saying? Like, that whole testing is different too. Like, right now we're at 3 months for our elderberry palm. For other drinks, we're at 6 months. And then the longer, like, we have to wait before we even get the results. So then we sell it based on the stability and then how long that THC will stay in that drink, because it can dissipate over time. There's just so much to it. And then carbonation, if your drink's carbonated, like, it's just, it's a lot, man. It's a lot.
It's a whole other episode.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, we talked about a handful of interesting things this episode. I feel like I'm ready to do a smoke sesh on Twitch. What about you guys?
A great idea, Chris. You're always full of them.
Oh, yeah, we should smoke.
Smoke
This
about
is an e-cig. Stick it to you.
It's a candy cigarette.
It's actually CGI.
Oh, it's AI.
Yeah, it's AI. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here on YouTube. If you didn't know, keep in mind we do record these episodes every single week, Thursdays, 1 p.m. Central, 2 Eastern, and 11 Pacific. I think I got that right. But if you didn't know, you can come check us out, twitch.tv/FromTheStash. Okay, come check us out. You can come participate in the chat. But even better than that, we do talk shows before and after each epi. So come join us for that, twitch.tv/FromTheStash. Also join us on FromTheStash.com. Did I get that right too? Yep, that's the one I was thinking about. Guys, we're going to be having a talk session with everyone here on Twitch. So for those on YouTube, thank you very much. My name is Pigeons. That's Mr. Growit. That's Rob. And the big guy in the back making sure everything runs smoothly is Wink. Thank you so much, Wink. We appreciate you. Guys, we're out of here.
Peace.
Peace.